Chapter 1, Being Banned from the Zhutian Communication Group at the Beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If you were given a chance to travel through Marvel, which Goldfinger would you choose? Join the Zhutian chat group, or have an attribute panel and get talents that can make you stronger through exercise. Another time-wasting choice of posts, I choose the little blue pill. In a private villa, a handsome young man looked at the posts on his computer and clicked the times in the upper right corner without hesitation, but the next moment he closed the post, his eyes went black and he completely lost consciousness. Should I say time travel? Or reincarnation? In a small house in the city center of New York, USA, a handsome and energetic Asian teenager had a hint of astonishment in his eyes. His real name is Bai Ye, and he should have been reincarnated into this world 18 years ago. As a result, because the young body cannot carry the adult soul, the memory of the past life is forcibly hidden by the body. It wasn't until I was remembered again a few days ago that I realized belatedly that I was still a time traveler. But it's not good to be reincarnated anywhere. I actually ended up in Marvel. I feel like I've been discovered by OAA. Bai Ye covered his head with helplessness on his face. As a background version of Marvel, OAA is officially designated as a boss who transcends omniscience and omnipotence, even if he is pseudo-omnipotent. The moment he mentions the existence of the other party in his mind, theoretically he has been discovered by the other party, and he may not care about it just because he doesn't care. But Bai Ye didn't complain for long. Reincarnation in Marvel's America was already a good thing. After all, time travel is not a matter of choice. Compared to those time travelers who were reincarnated in war-torn areas of Africa or before the Stone Age and were not even human beings, he should be considered a luckier person. In this empty cabin, Bai Ye muttered to himself in a very small voice, so is there any cheat for me to travel through time? System. Deep Blue. Template. Talent. Lord God. Chat Group. Jade Butterfly. Light Brain. Portable Grandpa. A fool who doesn't belong to this era. I won't pick one, just pick one. As soon as he finished speaking, two translucent virtual interfaces appeared in front of Bai Ye. It really does exist. I just said it casually, and I actually tricked the skill out. Bai Ye couldn't help but feel happy, and then looked at the two panels in front of him. In the middle of him is a dark blue panel, which clearly lists Bai Ye's three-dimensional data: name, Bai Ye, lifespan, 18/76. Strength, 1.2 plus, constitution, 1.1 plus, spirit, 1.2 plus, charisma, 1.3 plus, attribute points to be used, 0.4. Talent 1. Never ending, no upper limit, no bottleneck, no weakness, you can become stronger by working hard. Talent 2, the surplus of the strong. For every attribute value obtained, an additional 0.1 attribute point to be used will be added. Description column, none. On the right side, there is something similar to a chat box. It seems that because the middle panel is too overbearing, the second panel is forced aside like a small box. The image on this panel is very close to the penguin interface of the mobile phone. There are no functions such as advertisements and short videos. There is only a chat group called Zhutian Communication Group. Wait. Attribute panel. All Heaven Communication Group. Why do you feel so inexplicably familiar? Bai Ye was stunned for a moment, and then the dusty memory from many years ago was awakened. Is that post before time travel true? But isn't it a choice between two options? Did I choose or? Opening the chat group, he browsed for a while, and Bai Ye found that it was already a quite deserted chat group. There are only 5 or 6 group members in the entire chat group. What are their nicknames? Omniscient and Almighty Immortal, Ghost Hunting Taoist, Jun Zixia, Kimiji Makana, and Master Luo. There is no group leader, only a guy named the Omniscient and Almighty Immortal is the administrator. Bai Ye immediately understood. He is a fellow Earthling, so he understands. Kana Kimijima, are there any new people coming in? Welcome. Junzi Sword. I am under the Huashan Sektu Buchuan. Newcomers are welcome to join the chat group. If newcomers have any doubts, you can let me explain. Ghost Hunting Taoist, newcomers can learn about their future from the administrator. after looking at these people's speeches, Bai Ye thought about it and prepared to send a hello to them. As a result, as soon as the input interface was opened, a prompt lit up. Sorry, you have been banned by the administrator, omniscient and almighty immortal. What's the meaning? Bai Ye was completely stunned. In an unknown world, a man was sweating as he looked at the dark blue account that had been banned under his own authority. It's so dangerous, I almost got discovered. It's a pity that the administrator can't kick people, so I'd better find a chance to go there. Kill this fellow. Everyone who enters the chat group will automatically generate a signature. When Bai Ye enters the chat group, the omniscient and omnipotent immortal immediately checks the signature of the new member named Shenlan, and then the personal signature generated by Bai Ye is called, . So is there any cheat for me to travel through time? System. Dark blue. Stencil. Talent. Lord God. Chat group. Created jade butterfly. Optical brain. Take grandpa with you. A fool who does not belong to this era. I don't choose, just pick any one. Almost the moment he saw Bai Ye's signature, he understood that this was another fellow time traveler. In order to keep his image in front of the group members intact and to become a Buddha and ancestor in the future, he silenced Bai Ye without hesitation. To this day, he is still thankful that he acted quickly, otherwise the secret would have been exposed. But here, Bai Ye understood what happened almost immediately, and his face darkened. He never expected that he was a fellow time traveler. And he wanted to cooperate with the other person to deceive the group members, but when the fellow saw the fellow, he shot him in the back. It's really a choice between two. Bai Ye said speechlessly, still a little angry in his heart. The feeling of being stabbed in the back when he thought he was encountering a golden finger was really frustrating. He had never felt this angry before. Master Luo, why don't you talk as a newcomer? Does it mean you don't like talking? Kana Kimijima, maybe it's because he doesn't trust us very much, so the administrator can just say a few words. Omniscient and almighty immortal, I have already talked with the newcomer. He said that he has a pure heart and desires, and the chat group is just a foreign object to him. I hope everyone will not disturb him in the future. Zhutian, is that so? It seems that this man is also a true gentleman. Seeing the omniscient and omnipotent immortal in the chat group, Bai Ye endured the anger without even saying a harsh word. After all, anger without strength is just incompetent rage. I have made a note of this great kindness, and I will definitely repay him the same way he did to me if we have the opportunity to meet him in the future. Bai Ye thought silently in his heart, and then focused his attention on the dark blue panel in the center again, hoping to find a way to repay his kindness. Newbie, new book, please take care of me. Chapter 2. You can become stronger as long as you exercise. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Name, Bai Ye, lifespan, 18/76. Strength, 1.2 plus, constitution, 1.1 plus, spirit, 1.2 plus, charisma, 1.3 plus, attribute points to be used, 0.4. Talent 1, never ending, no upper limit, no bottleneck, no weakness. You can become stronger by working hard. Talent 2, the surplus of the strong. Every time an attribute is improved, an additional 0.1 attribute points will be added to be used. Description column, none. The entire attribute panel was simple and easy to understand, without any explanation. Looking at the 0.4 on the attribute points to be used, Bai Ye hesitated and did not add points immediately. After all, he still understands the principle of starting with the easier and then the harder. Wait until the attributes are difficult to improve in the later stage before trying to add points, so now he should try this talent called Endless first. I remember what the post in my previous life said, you can become stronger by exercising. Bai Ye looked at the wall clock on the opposite wall. The time was already 8:19, which meant that class would start in half an hour. This place is about 2 kilometers away from his high school. If he walked to school like he did before, he would definitely be late. How about running over there directly? After all, running counts as exercise. Bai Ye thought for a while, then immediately picked up his school bag, rushed out of the room and ran towards the school. The cool breeze in the early morning caressed Bai Ye's cheeks, making his mind gradually clear. Looking at the hurried passers-by around him, Bai Ye thought, since you choose to exercise, of course you have to do it to the extreme. The next moment, his original jogging speed changed, and in the surprised eyes of passers-by around him, he ran towards the school at full speed like a gust of wind. 2 kilometers. For Bai Ye, who is usually in good physical condition, he can reach the destination by jogging for more than 10 minutes without blushing or out of breath, but running at full strength at this moment is a huge test of will, physical strength and endurance. In the first 400 meters, the wanton exertion of physical energy brought an inexplicable sense of comfort to his brain. He ran at full strength without any discomfort. He even felt confident that he could keep running, but Bai Ye's rationality told him that these were just illusions brought to the brain when he was physically strong in the early stage, and the real pain came in the second half. After sprinting 300 meters at full speed, his breathing began to become slightly disordered, and the illusion of abundant physical strength began to fade away. The legs began to gradually become heavier, the speed also began to slow down, and the skin began to sweat. Due to the heat dissipation, and when he ran 800 meters with all his strength, he could feel the involuntary feeling when running. Every step was like walking through a muddy swamp. Fatigue and weakness spread throughout his body. From here on, his speed began to drop significantly and he was covered in sweat. After 1,500 meters, he felt as if his heart was about to jump out of his chest. The muscles all over my body hurt as if they were on fire, and my breathing was as laborious as pulling a bellows. At the same time, there was obvious pain when I breathed. Large drops of sweat dripped from my body, and the thought of giving up kept coming to my mind, but the only thing that remained unchanged throughout the whole process was his eyes that were always filled with calm emotions. 9 minutes later, at Zhongqing High School, under the surprised gazes of the entire class and the teacher, Bai Ye took the last step with difficulty and stepped on the door of the Class 2 Class 1 classroom. Almost the moment Bai Ye entered the classroom, the school bell rang suddenly, which meant that Bai Ye was not late at this moment. Teacher. Hello. Bai Ye felt the pain in his lungs with every breath and gently greeted the astonished teacher on the podium intermittently. Did you come to school? You're so sweaty. Forget it, go back to your seat first. The teacher said, and then watched Bai Ye almost move towards his seat. Watching Bai Ye, who was sweating profusely, just moved to his seat, and after he sat down, the teacher continued the class. Beside him, a thin boy with blonde hair looked at the panting Bai Ye curiously and whispered, Bai Ye, how did you do this? You are not really going to be late, so come to the classroom. Yeah. Bai Ye said casually, then glanced at the classmate beside him, Peter Parker. Having just awakened his past life memories, he suddenly realized that the chatty classmate next to him was actually the Spider-Man in the movie, but he had not been bitten by the spider yet. While responding to Peter's chatty whisper, Bai Ye opened his attribute panel without fear of being discovered by anyone around him. He had discovered it when he was at home. When he opened the property panel, it was not displayed in the mirror, which meant that only he could see the property panel, but after opening the panel, he was stunned because there were a few more lines of text on the originally blank description column. Description column, you completed a run with a total distance of 24 meters and an average pace of 4 minutes and 42 seconds per kilometer. Repeated 53-28 times, your body suffered 0.12% long-term damage and can recover on its own when your physical fitness reaches 1.5, strength is reduced by 43%, and the upper limit of strength is increased by 2.7%. Repeated 193 times, the upper limit of strength can be increased by 0.1. Physical energy consumption is 74%, the upper limit of endurance is increased by 2.2%, repeated 65 times, the upper limit of physical fitness can be increased by 0.1. The will consumption is 46%, the will limit is increased by 4.3%, repeated 356 times, the mental limit can be increased by 0.1. As long as you repeat it up to 356 times, you can increase all three-dimensional attributes by 0.1. Bai Ye's eyes lit up as he looked at the explanation column in front of him. It was simply telling him clearly in a digital way what he should do next, and this only shows the exercise effect of running. What about other exercises? Full push-ups? All-out sit-ups? Full squat. Is the effect of exercise better? It only improved by 0.1 after more than 300 times. Isn't it a bit too little? If you want to reach the Hulk's level of hundreds of thousands of strength points, you may not be able to do it in your lifetime, right? We have to race against time. Thinking of this, Bai Ye, who felt that time waits for no one, felt that some of his physical strength had recovered, then he stood up and raised his hands and said, "Teacher, I feel a little dizzy and want to go to the infirmary for a checkup." The teacher looked at Bai Ye silently and hesitated for a while before saying, "Peter, please take Bai Ye to the infirmary to have a look." "Teacher, don't bother Peter, I can do it myself." Bai Ye shook his head. As soon as he finished speaking, he got up and ran out of the classroom under the stunned eyes of the whole class. Looking at Bai Ye, who was running like flying and disappeared in a moment, the whole class was dumbfounded at this moment. "You guy, don't you even pretend to skip class?" Chapter 3 Staying up late is equal to cultivating immortality. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. At night, in a dark cabin, Bai Ye put his hands on the ground and did push-ups together, 1, 2, 3, 30, 31, 32, 50, 51, 52, after reaching 50 reps, his ups and downs began to slow down, and the soreness in his muscles gradually came, but he was overcome by his will, and he completed push-ups mechanically in a standard posture. After reaching the 60-second position, Bai Ye, who couldn't hold on anymore, let go of his hands and fell to the ground, breathing while opening the panel, compared with. During the day, there are now more than a dozen different types of exercise methods on the instruction column, description column. You completed a run with a total distance of 24 meters and an average pace of 4 minutes and 42 seconds per kilometer. You completed a total of 89 bodyweight push-ups. You completed a bodyweight squat for a total of 103 reps. You completed it once. Looking at the long list of instructions, Bai Ye smiled with satisfaction. After all, these were all the results of his hard work in a day. At the current pace, with all the various exercise methods added up, my physical strength will increase to about 1.2 in less than a week. I still feel a little tired. Forget it, let's try to exercise hard for a year anyway, and go to the gym to apply for a card tomorrow. During this year, I will put aside my studies for a while. If it doesn't work out, I can only accept the fact that I am an ordinary person and repeat my studies for another year. He sat up from the ground again. Even though he was very tired, he still needed the muscles on his arms. After exercising, if he didn't massage them properly, the soreness in the muscles would teach him how to behave the next day. After a simple massage, Bai Ye glanced at the time on the wall and saw that it was already 10 p.m. After washing up casually, Bai Ye lay back on the bed. Feeling that his body's physical strength had almost reached its limit, he slowly closed his eyes and would soon fall asleep, but before he was about to fall asleep, he opened his eyes suddenly because he thought of a very important question: if I stay up late, does that count as a mental exercise? No matter what, let me stay up with it for the night and I'll find out tomorrow by reading the instructions. Thinking of this, Bai Ye, who was extremely sleepy, forced himself to open his eyes. With the moonlight streaming in from the window, he got out of bed and started exercising with his exhausted body. He managed to stay up for 5 hours despite being exhausted. Finally, at 4 o'clock in the morning the next day, Bai Ye couldn't bear it anymore and passed out. The moment before he lost consciousness, a new prompt appeared in his description column. Description column: you completed a continuous activity with a total duration of 21 hours, 13 minutes and 12 seconds, repeated 954 times. Your body suffered long-term damage of 3.21%, and it can recover on its own when your physical fitness reaches 1.5, the will consumption is 96.7%, the will limit is increased by 32%, repeated 3 times, the mental limit can be increased by 0.1. At 12 o'clock the next morning, Bai Ye regained consciousness from his deep sleep. I got up from the ground, rubbed my swollen brain, opened the properties panel, and was immediately shocked by the status display on the description column. This level of strength is simply unheard of. No wonder staying up late is called cultivating immortality. It turns out that staying up all night can really make you stronger. Isn't it okay to just stay up for 21 hours yesterday? Then try to stay up for 25 hours today. Bai Ye made up his mind, and after a simple wash, he opened the refrigerator. If you want to have a good body, eating while exercising is naturally essential. there are all kinds of foods in the refrigerator. Eating these is equivalent to directly ingesting all the nutrients needed by the human body, including proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and vitamins. All of these were purchased by Bai Ye after school yesterday. Moreover, while taking into account the nutritional value of the food purchased by Bai Ye, he also tried to pay a higher price to buy food that had similar nutritional intake but better taste than low-priced food. In his opinion, suffering through exercise is for a better life in the future, but if you endure hardship for the sake of suffering, isn't that putting the cart before the horse? So as long as there is no shortage of money and it does not affect the efficiency of exercise, he will naturally not treat himself badly, but wouldn't eating unpalatable food and being hungry all the time have a better effect on mental exercise? After all, straining your muscles and bones and starving your body is also a kind of training of your will. Bai Ye guessed in his mind as he chewed the expensive food in his hand bit by bit. Looking at the delicious food in his hands, Bai Ye hesitated for a moment, then continued to take a big bite. He could accept the pain caused by regular exercise, but if eating shit was considered exercise and could make him stronger, then he would rather not get stronger. After spending a few minutes filling his hungry body, Bai Ye tidied up the environment, got up and walked outside the house. It was time to put the gym on the agenda. Today is Friday, and it is school time, but I have asked for leave from the school in advance yesterday. Plus Saturday and Sunday, 3 days should be enough to increase the mental attribute to 0.1. I searched for the nearest gym on my phone, and after briefly browsing the reviews of a dozen gyms within 5 kilometers, Bai Ye fell in love with a gym called Maine's. The reason why I chose this one is because it is a well-known chain brand among gyms. It has been operating locally for 7 or 8 years and has a good reputation around it. In theory, the risk of running away should not be too great. After checking the distance and seeing that it was only about 1.8 kilometers, Bai Ye opened his legs without hesitation and ran towards the gym at full speed. On the street, Bai Ye kept sprinting towards his goal. Then he was a little surprised to find that although the muscles in his body were still sore, compared to yesterday, his pace was lighter and his running was easier today. The pace was obviously more compact than yesterday, but it wasn't until around the 400 m that his breathing started to become a little disordered. Although the value on the panel was not shown, he could clearly feel that his physical fitness had changed significantly in just one day. Description column: you completed a run with a total distance of 1824 meters and an average pace of 4 minutes and 17 seconds per kilometer, repeated 5670 times. Your body suffered 0.12% long-term damage and can recover on its own when your physical fitness reaches 1.5. Repeat 94 times to increase the upper limit of strength by 0.1. Repeat 42 times to increase the upper limit of physical fitness by 0.1. Repeat 132 times to increase the mental limit by 0.1. When Bai Ye stood in front of the gym and compared the numbers shown on the explanation column yesterday and today, a sense of satisfaction that the hard work was rewarded emerged spontaneously. Yesterday I ran an exhausting 2 kilometers and had to repeat it 365 times to increase my energy by 0.1. However, today I ran an easier 1.8 kilometers only 132 times, which was a direct reduction of nearly 60%. This step-by-step but obvious process of becoming stronger began to fascinate him. Chapter 4: Zixia Magical Skill. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. Inside the Maine's Fitness Club, after 2 hours of understanding, Bai Ye directly spent $10,000 to purchase a full fitness package for 1 year. It includes the highest membership benefits, an independent lounge, free massage and personal trainer guidance, but the content of the guidance is formulated by Bai Ye himself. You mean, I don't need to supervise your exercise, nor do I need to make a training plan for each stage. I just need to check whether each of your exercise postures is standard. In the club, William Smith, a coach in his 30s with big tendons all over his body, stared at the handsome young man in front of him with a determined attitude. This is the first time he has seen this kind of request in all his years as a coach. Yes, I just need to correct it when my posture is not standard and there are safety risks. Bai Ye said straightforwardly. As for the training plan, there is no need at all. As long as you can practice to death, practice to death. Every exercise method will directly maximize the pressure. Anyway, it is clearly stated in the description column that whether it is long-term injury or hidden injury, as long as the constitution reaches 1.5, it can recover on its own, then just let your physique reach the minimum requirement of 1.5 before paralyzing your body. If it doesn't work, let Shenlong add some more. Bai Ye saw that he still had 0.4 attribute points to be used. When the real practice was paralyzed, he could just use the attribute panel to add points. There was no problem at all. Anyway, the money has been paid. If you don't agree, I will directly apply to change the coach or refund the money and change to a gym. Bai Ye directly threatened. In a capitalist country like the United States these days, if you have money, you are afraid of not being able to find a coach. Okay. Smith reluctantly compromised. Then when are you going to start training? Time waits for no one, of course it is now. Bai Ye cast his eyes on a row of dumbbells of different weights placed in the gym. Let's try the 20 kilograms first. Then you start, I'll watch from the sidelines. Smith said casually. At this moment, in his mind, Bai Ye was already regarded as the kind of rich second generation who only takes 3 minutes to do things and is stupid and rich. Anyway, I'm watching from the side. If there is any danger, just speak up and warn him. Nothing will happen. Smith thought in his heart, but an hour later, he said nervously from the side, wait a minute, please stop and rest for a while. After hearing Smith's words, Bai Ye, who thought something was wrong, struggled to complete the last crunch, and then lay on the ground like a dried salted fish, feeling his abdominal muscles burning. After taking a few breaths, he said, why are you telling me to stop? I'm exercising exactly according to the postures you taught me. There shouldn't be any problems with my movements. It's not a problem with your movements. Your posture is already very standard, but your training intensity is too high. If you continue like this, I'm worried that your body will develop symptoms of rhabdomyolysis. Smith's face was filled with worry. He was really scared. In the past hour, Bai Ye tried 6 or 7 different training items such as dumbbells, squats, push-ups, barbells, and abdominal crunches. Each of them was aimed at hard training during training. That desperate posture is really too crazy, especially the last few movements of each training program. Bai Ye's painful but still perseverant look during exercise is too terrifying. It even gave him the illusion that Bai Ye's soul might leave his body at any time while he was watching over him. If he was seeing a joke half an hour ago, now he was really afraid that this young man would become the first customer to die in his hands. When Bai Ye heard the coach say that his movements were fine, Bai Ye frowned slightly with dissatisfaction. The training was forcibly interrupted. He felt that at least 40% of the training effect of abdominal crunches had been lost. Bai Ye, who had just recovered somewhat, immediately lay down and continued to do the unfinished abdominal crunches. Smith could only sigh helplessly while watching. Bai Ye's training lasted for another 2 hours. During this period, although he still tried his best in every group of training items, however, the continuous consumption of physical strength made him train less and less frequently, and the rest interval between 2 training items was lengthened accordingly. 2 hours later, when Bai Ye had squeezed out the strength from almost every muscle in his body except Nyozi, his whole body collapsed on the yoga mat like a burnt body of white ash. This feeling of weakness and dying is like having a ray of yang energy sucked away alive by the 1,000-year-old zombie king jumping past Bai Ye. Today, just come, here, continue tomorrow. Bai Ye said with difficulty. Okay, I'll carry you to massage and relax your muscles. Seeing that Bai Ye finally stopped, Smith breathed a sigh of relief and complained in his heart, we can continue tomorrow. With your current physical condition, it will be good if you can get up tomorrow. Well, be careful if you pee blood when you wake up tomorrow. But what only Bai Ye could see was the achievements he had made through hard work one after another on his description column. At the same time, the record that appeared in the last one proved his efforts. Description column, you completed a bodyweight squat with a total of 54 reps, repeat 9 times to increase the upper limit of strength by 0.1. Repeat 7 times to increase the upper limit of physical fitness by 0.1. Repeat 2 times to increase the mental limit by 0.1. Seeing that the 3-dimensional upper limit could be increased by only single digits, Bai Ye, who had no physical strength left, could only wait until tomorrow to exercise again. after the difficult bathing and massage, Bai Ye was helped back to the door by Smith. Looking at Bai Ye, who was unsteady on his feet, Smith finally asked, "Are you sure you really don't want to go to the hospital?" "No need, you can get off work. See you tomorrow." Bai Ye supported the wall with his right hand, then turned his back to Smith, walked slowly into the room, and then closed the door softly. "Although I can't do physical exercise, I can exercise my mental will. I agreed to stay up all night for 25 hours. If the moon doesn't sleep tonight, I won't sleep." Bai Ye decided this, then sat in front of the computer, pressed the power button, and after the computer started up, he was going to search for some health-building techniques like Tai Chi on the internet, trying to squeeze out every bit of potential in the body. That's not right. When Bai Ye was searching, a sudden inspiration came to him. He immediately stopped what he was doing and opened the communication group of the heavens that had been blocked before, so he ignored it. In the current chat group, Bai Ye was still blocked and unable to send messages, but that was not his goal. On the file bar, Bai Ye saw hundreds of files with different content stacked together. Bai Ye clicked on one casually, and the next second it directly showed that the download was completed and could be viewed at any time. Sure enough, unable to send messages is not equal to unable to receive files. After confirming his guess, Bai Ye suppressed his gradually accelerating heartbeat and started searching in the group files. A minute later, Bai Ye's eyes lit up because he saw a file on the chat group's group file. The magic power of Zixia. Uploader, Zhutian. Chapter 5. All attributes improved. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. In the Zhutian exchange group, every member comes from a different world and is in a different era of technology, and most of the group members are from before the modern era when technology was underdeveloped. Even if one or two technologies leak out from a technologically high-level civilization, it will be of great help to a low-level civilization. In this newly established group, there are only 3 people who can be considered modern. One is the group administrator, omniscient and almighty great immortal, the other is Kana Kimijima, and the last one is Bai Ye himself. In order to create his own inscrutable mystery, the omniscient and omnipotent immortal didn't even say a few words. Naturally, he would not do such a self-degrading thing as issuing technical documents. Bai Ye was banned and could not send documents, so most of the documents were sent by the girl named Kana Kimijima. Compared with other group members in ancient or modern times, as a modern person, Kimijima Kana often uploads some open technologies in the group, such as gunpowder production methods, indigenous steelmaking, glass firing, etc., which can be queried on the internet at will. And other group members who have been benefited by these technologies cannot be hidden under the courtesy. In addition, the world is different, so some of the techniques and tricks that I usually treasure are all generously donated at this moment. After hearing that Kimijima Kana was just an ordinary girl, Master Luo uploaded the file Mantis Fist, and the Ghost Hunter Taoist uploaded the method of making talismans. In order to create a reputation as a gentleman among the group, Zhutian directly released his sect's most powerful weapon, the Purple Cloud Magic Technique. At this moment, Bai Ye looked at the Zixia Divine Art file on the chat group with almost shining eyes, and opened it without hesitation. After opening it, Bai Ye directly saw the inner strength and mental methods, as well as the detailed tendon and pulse diagrams and annotations. Zixia Shengong, the martial arts in the world are based on qi training. Haren's righteous qi is originally given by heaven, but ordinary people are not good at cultivating it, and instead use their nature to destroy qi. The troubles of warriors are sexual violence and arrogance. Looking at the documents of Zixia magic art, Bai Ye found that it seemed that in order to take care of the newbies like them, especially considering Kana Kimijima, a Fuso girl, Yubuchuan almost used the method of teaching children, adding a large number of annotation. It happened that Bai Ye was about to stay up late, so he directly studied the exercises in the secret book little by little despite his tired spirit. After an unknown amount of time, before he became dizzy after reading the secret book and was about to pass out, he felt a faint chill suddenly surge into his brain, clearing his consciousness. Afterwards, the original mental fatigue was swept away, and an unprecedented understanding came to his mind. When he realized something, he immediately opened the attribute panel. Spirit, 1.21.3. Description column, you have completed a mental activity with a total duration of 11 hours, 31 minutes and 25 seconds, and the upper limit of mental attributes has been increased to 1.3 after my mental strength has increased by 0.1. I won't be mentally exhausted at all, but my body still has no strength at all. Bai Ye immediately realized that as long as a single attribute increased by 0.1, the physical status of this attribute would be completely refreshed, so just now, with the increase in mental power upper limit, the blue bar has been completely restored. Realizing this, Bai Ye set his sights on the 0.4 attributes to be used. If it is as he guessed, then every attribute to be used can be used as fairy beams. If you are injured and on the verge of death during a battle, you can directly click the attributes on the Constitution bar. Your originally weak body will be fully restored and it will become stronger. Thinking of this, Bai Ye looked at the two attributes of physique and strength with burning eyes. He originally thought that he would break through these two attributes after his body recovered tomorrow. In this case, today. After making up his mind, Bai Ye directly put away the Zixia magic file on the chat group, stood up with support on the table beside him, and started restorative exercises. 1, 2, 3. Bai Ye straightened his somewhat shaky legs, followed the standard squatting movements taught by Coach Smith at noon today, lowered his body bit by bit, and then stood up. 3 minutes later, after 53 squats, Bai Ye, whose legs were so weak that his whole body was weak, sat down directly on the ground. You completed a bodyweight squat with a total of 53 reps. Repeat 5 times to increase strength by 0.1. Repeat 2 times to increase physical fitness by 0.1. Repeat 1375 times to increase the spirit by 0.1. Looking at the number of times on the instruction column, Bai Ye didn't even take a breath before he held it in and started doing abdominal crunches. 7 minutes later, Bai Ye, who had no choice but to stop curling up, looked at the instruction column that read 3 times for strength and 1 time for stamina. With no strength in his body, he began to crawl forward like a cocoon, bit by bit with all his strength, gritting his teeth. 3 meters, 5 meters, 10 meters, when the cocoon was 13 meters above the ground, his body suddenly lightened, and a huge force emerged from his body, forcing him to stand up. Creak. Crack. Crack. Unknown power transformed every part of Bai Ye's body, and subtle cracking sounds continue to be heard from the bones. The skin, meridians, bones, muscles, and cells all change in the most perfect way. Just as he had guessed before, the improvement of his physical fitness would allow him to fully recover his physical fitness, but it was not just a recovery of his physical fitness, this is a refreshment of the physical state. All the physical imperfections caused by bad habits in the past 18 years of this life are now restored as before. On Bai Ye's forehead, the scar caused by a bump in his youth faded away, and his slightly short-sighted left eye became clear again. The skin that was originally dull due to melanin deposition caused by direct sunlight has become as white and rosy as a baby again. The dark circles on both sides of the eye sockets caused by staying up late last night and the hidden bruises caused by the past 2 days of exercise also disappeared directly in this status refresh. It can be said that Bai Ye is in the most perfect state at this moment, and it is not an exaggeration to say that he is completely transformed. All the negative buffs accumulated in the body in the past 18 years have been cleared away in this physical improvement. Perhaps any subsequent state refresh will not be as hardworking and memorable for him as at this moment. My body. Bai Ye looked at his hands at this moment, with a smile on his lips. I have never had such a wonderful start. That with this sense of satisfaction, Bai Ye opened the panel. The next moment his movements froze, and he stared blankly at the data on the panel. Name, Bai Ye, lifespan, 18/100. Strength, 1.3 plus, constitution, 1.2 plus, spirit, 1.3 plus, charisma, 1.4 plus, attribute points to be used, 0.5. Description column, you have completed a difficult crawl with a total distance of 13 meters, and the upper limit of your physical attributes has been increased to 1.2. You have completed a rebirth, the body's force-generating structure has been optimized, and the upper limit of the strength attribute has been increased to 1.3. You have completed a rebirth, your physical appearance defects have been corrected, and the upper limit of your charm attribute has been increased to 1.4. The total attribute value exceeds 5 points. Talent 2, the surplus of the strong, is activated, and the attribute points to be used are plus 0.1. Chapter 6 Charm and Internal Strength. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. In the dim room, Bai Ye looked at the changes in the attribute panel in surprise, not only his physique, but also his strength, charm, and attribute points to be used all exceeded the upper limit in the chain reaction brought about by his physique breakthrough. Just at noon today, he was still thinking about whether his mental attributes could be improved in the 3 days before going to school, but not even a day later. With his own efforts and a little help from the system panel, all attributes increased by 0.1. But what's up with this charm? Bai Ye was a little confused. Originally, the increase in strength attribute after a breakthrough is very reasonable, but what does this have to do with charm? With confusion, he turned on the light in the dark at night, and then slowly walked into the bathroom step by step. The next second he was shocked by the figure in the mirror. In the mirror, Bai Ye saw a tall and handsome young man with picturesque features staring at him in surprise. Whether it was his fair and shiny skin or his deep eyes, every detail was irresistible. Perfect. I'm convinced. Bai Ye sighed as he looked at himself in the mirror. Before this, he had always had a considerable degree of confidence in his appearance. How to describe his previous appearance? Let's put it this way, in front of him, Takashi Kaneshiro was not even half as good as Daniel Wu. Out of confidence in his appearance, although he didn't express much, he did criticize the 1.3 in the charm column on the panel. If his charm is only 1.3, what does 1.4 look like? As a result, when he reached 1.4, he felt relieved. Sure enough, the charm of 1.4 must be like this. After looking at his appearance for a while, Bai Ye walked out of the bathroom. With his body and mind in optimal condition, he carefully followed the instructions on the Junzi sword and began to learn the Zixia magic technique. I don't know if it's due to the mental breakthrough of 1.3. Bai Ye feels that both his memory and understanding ability have been greatly improved. His learning efficiency is amazing. It only took him 2 hours to complete these thousands of words of Zixia. Memorize the inner skills and mental methods of the magical skills thoroughly, word for word. I sat on the sofa with my legs crossed, my eyes slightly closed, and I emptied my mind little by little, and then tried my luck according to the muscle circulation road map, but I didn't feel anything at all after sitting quietly for more than 10 minutes. Bai Ye was not in a hurry, he remained calm and focused, his body motionless. According to the annotation of Zhutian, a peerless genius can produce a trace of true energy in the body with every cup of tea, while a person with outstanding talent can spend 1 stick of incense. A person with excellent talent needs 2 hours, and a mediocre person can take half a day. Talent ranges from 1 day to 5 days, and the gap caused by talent is huge, but at this moment, more than 10 minutes have passed and he doesn't feel anything at all, which only shows that his talent is not the so-called peerless genius. While meditating silently on my mind, finally 35 minutes later, a small stream of air rose from the Tanjong point in the meridian diagram. Sensing the difference, Bai Ye calmed down as soon as his heart moved, and carried this airflow bit by bit throughout every meridian in his body, and finally stored it in his dantian. So, I'm pretty talented. Bai Ye thought in his heart, opened his eyes, and a new prompt appeared on the explanation column. You completed an internal force transfer with a total duration of 35 minutes and 21 seconds, and a trace of Zixia Qi was generated in your body. It doesn't show any increase in physical fitness. In other words, practicing internal strength will not have much improvement in physical fitness. Bai Ye thought, recalling the performance of the warriors and the swordsmen. It is true that people who lose their inner strength are almost like ordinary people, but I am not discouraged, because in Yu Buchuan's annotation, in addition to prolonging life, consuming internal energy can make up for the recovery of physical strength. As long as the internal energy is sufficient, continuous exercise for 3 days and 3 nights is not a problem. He continued to calm down and continue to move his internal energy, and it gradually grew stronger. Then every half hour or so, he would be able to generate a trace of internal energy in his body. The long night passed, and as the white night continued to circulate around the sky, until early morning, there was only a trace of true energy in the body, which increased in number 20 times, reaching the level of 2 strands. As he slowly finished the exercise, the faint purple aura that appeared on his face during the exercise also quietly faded away, and his eyes slowly opened, filled with energy. I don't know if it was due to internal force, but after staying up all night, he didn't feel tired at all, and his energy remained strong. After moving his somewhat stiff body for a while, Bai Ye found food from the refrigerator and swallowed it whole. After briefly packing up, he was ready to go out and run to the gym. Description column: you have completed a run with a total distance of 1824 meters and an average pace of 3 minutes and 21 seconds per kilometer, repeated 8321 times. Your body will suffer long-term damage of 0.05%. It can recover on its own when your physical fitness reaches 1.5. Repeat 412 times to increase the upper limit of strength by 0.1. Repeat 213 times to increase the upper limit of physical fitness by 0.1. Repeat 1742 times to increase the mental limit by 0.1. Looking at the numbers on the explanation column, Bai Ye's eyes lit up as he was just panting slightly. This data is nearly 1 minute faster than yesterday in terms of pace. This progress is amazing. My hard training is indeed effective. However, after my physical fitness improves, the number of times required to improve by 0.1 has more than doubled. With the satisfaction of improving his body, Bai Ye went directly into the fitness club and found Smith. Are you really Bai Ye? Are you sure you're not his twin brother? Smith looked at the radiant and handsome young man in front of him, compared with his haggard appearance last night, and suspected that he was hallucinating. Not only was he full of energy, looking at the white knight at this time, Smith recommended from the bottom of his heart, although I don't know what the purpose of fitness is, there is no need for you to work so hard. With your face, I promise that even if you can thrive in the film and television industry without having any acting skills. Coach, you talk a bit too much. I just want to exercise now. Bai Ye emphasized, dissatisfied in his heart. This guy looks full of tendons, but he is a talker. Why do he always say all kinds of things to affect him? Okay, since there is no problem with your body, let's start today's training. What do you want to practice first? Smith spread his hands. Let's start with bodyweight squats. Bai Ye said, then took off his shoes and walked to the yoga mat. After a simple warm-up, he placed his hands flat and began to squat. 5 minutes later, Smith rubbed his eyes and looked at Bai Ye, who was squatting hard. What's going on? It's almost 400 squats. Yesterday, didn't you look like you were dying of pain after doing more than 200? Looking at the white knight that significantly refreshed the record, Smith had some doubts about life, but even more doubtful was that the tiredness of this young man yesterday was not an act, right? Chapter 7: Breaking the World Record. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. For 27, for 28, for 29, in the fitness club, under Smith's suspicious gaze, Bai Ye performed squats with trembling legs. Judging from the previous experience of reaching the physical limit, Bai Ye knew that he would collapse if he reached about 10 more at most. However, what was different from the past was that this time he had 2 more strands of internal energy in his body. Feeling that his physical strength was almost exhausted, he did squats with difficulty. At the same time, the internal energy in his dantian also surged out along the meridians and flowed to various acupuncture points on his legs. After circulating in the body, the fatigue of his legs was immediately relieved. It really works. Bai Ye was overjoyed, feeling that this was just as Zhutian said in his annotation, it could restore his physical strength. Then he calmed down and observed the state of his internal energy. After running for a week, the 2 strands of internal energy in the body directly lost 1/10, which is about 2 strands, which means that he can recover 9 more times. With his body slightly recovered, Bai Ye continued to squat. After holding on for another 20 squats, his muscles reached their limit again, and then he controlled the internal force in his dantian to flow down to replenish his physical strength. In Smith's ghostly look, Bai Ye's squatting speed would always slow down to a certain level, then suddenly speed up and then gradually slow down again and again. What's going on? This kid took the wrong medicine. Such a big change. If you do a little more, you can enter the Guinness World Records. Smith no longer knew that this was the first time he had been surprised since he met Bai Ye. This kid could always come up with some new tricks. Finally, under Smith's somewhat numb gaze, after Bai Ye exhausted the last bit of internal energy in his dantian, he couldn't hold on and his legs softened, and he sat down on the yoga mat. You completed a bodyweight squat with a total of 663 reps. Repeat 62 times to increase the upper limit of strength by 0.1. Repeat 32 times to increase the upper limit of physical fitness by 0.1. Repeat 92 times to increase the mental limit by 0.1. Sure enough, when the body is in the extreme state, the effect of exercise is several times more than usual, and the internal strength can extend the number of times I exercise under the extreme state, which is equivalent to me directly hanging up a multiple experience card. Seeing this, Bai Ye finally confirmed his guess. In this case, I should first train my body to the extreme state, and then use internal strength to recover. By repeating this, I should be able to increase my three-dimensionality by 0.1 again before going to school on Monday. While Bai Ye was thinking, he sat cross-legged on the yoga mat. Under Smith's confused gaze, he regained the energy he had spent in the morning. Compared with increasing the upper limit of internal strength, it is much faster to recover the lost qi. In addition, his qi amount is already pitifully small, and it only takes a few minutes for the recovery to be completed. After replenishing his inner strength, he looked at Smith and said, "My feet have no strength. Please carry me on your back." "Well, what do you want to practice?" Smith asked. Bai Ye didn't answer, but pointed to the bench press stand beside him. In this way, Bai Ye improved himself step by step at his own pace, constantly challenging physiological limits with different training programs. If you can't hold on to training, use your internal strength to relieve it. When your internal strength is exhausted, stop training and recover. Once you are full, you can switch to a new program. As you continue to exercise, you will slowly adapt to the pain of training. In the evening, he went back to the house to practice the Zixia magic skill to increase the upper limit of his true energy. On the description column 18 hours later, you have completed a bodyweight squat with a total number of 1392 times, and the upper limit of your physical attributes has been increased to 1.3. On the description column 24 hours later, you completed a push-up with a weight of 30 kilograms and a total of 831 push-ups. The upper limit of the strength attribute was increased to 1.4. Finally, after not sleeping for 27 consecutive hours, the exhausted Bai Ye stared straight ahead, his eyes firm as he punched a standard straight punch at the dynamometer. At the moment of the bombardment, a huge roar resounded throughout the gym, and at the same time, the numbers on the dynamometer began to jump rapidly. 200300400500600. Finally, under Smith's disbelieving gaze, the number on the dynamometer stopped at 672 pounds. At the same time, a cool feeling surged into Bai Ye's brain, clearing his consciousness. Even without looking at the panel, he knew that his mental attributes had increased to 1.4. Oh my God, how is this possible? 672 pounds, this has already exceeded the world record. Smith exclaimed on the side, while Bai Ye looked at his attribute bar in silence. Name, Bai Ye, lifespan, 18/120. Strength, 1.4 plus, constitution, 1.3 plus, spirit, 1.4 plus, charisma, 1.4 plus, attribute points to be used, 0.5. Can the power of just 1.4 break the world record of ordinary humans? Bai Ye felt that something was wrong with the values on this panel. You must know that when his strength was 1.2, he couldn't even hit half of this value. As a result, only a 0.2 increase in the value more than doubled his physical fitness, and after 2 days of investigation, he also discovered some hidden contents of the panel. For example, the strength column is not only muscle strength, it also includes the speed of movement. Physique represents the body's toughness, cultivation speed, and body healing speed. As for the mental attributes, they represent will, neural reaction speed, control, memory, observation, and understanding. The reason for this speculation is that when Bai Ye's physical fitness improved, the speed at which he practiced the Zixia magic skill also increased. When his physique reaches 1.3, it only takes 15 minutes to condense a trace of Zixia's true energy, reaching the level of a peerless genius. Mentioned in Yubuchuan's annotation, but what surprised him even more was that his whole body seemed to be connected together. When he did squats, the strength of his arms would also be improved due to the exercise of his legs, and the same was true for his training speed. In other words, although he has not exercised Nyo, it does not mean that Nyo has not exercised. It seems like there are still many secrets to be discovered in this property panel. Why isn't there a manual or something? Bai Ye thought with some dissatisfaction, then Bai Ye said to Smith, "That's it for today. I have to go to school tomorrow Monday, and I may have to wait until school is over before I can come over for training, so you can make your own arrangements before 3 o'clock. Okay. Smith said cautiously, seeing such a huge change in Bai Ye. Smith now regarded Bai Ye as a mutant in his heart, and because of the propaganda of the entire human government, the status of mutants was as stinky as street rats. He even hesitated whether to report Bai Ye to the police and send him to a mutant shelter. Of course, this is just an idea of his. Bai Ye is now his client. Apart from being occasionally surprised when he watches him exercise, he is very leisurely and still takes the money. There is no need to meddle in other people's business. After leaving the fitness club, Bai Ye, who was in good health and very energetic due to his breakthrough, walked directly home. He was no longer satisfied with pure physical exercise, and he wanted to try some ideas. Chapter 8 Being in a sulfuric acid pool is like taking a bath. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. In the evening, Bai Ye stood in front of his hut. There was a tightly wrapped express delivery at the door. He bent down and picked up the courier. Just before he wanted to enter, he was stopped by a person behind him. "Hello, did you order door-to-door delivery?" The courier boy asked Bai Ye, looking at the address on the courier note as he was about to enter the house. Seeing that his express delivery had arrived, Bai Ye turned around and nodded. "Yes, I ordered the express delivery. The last number of my mobile phone is..." The courier boy was stunned for a few seconds when he saw Bai Ye turning around. Then he took out the receipt with some embarrassment and said, "Can you please sign for it? There are a lot of things you ordered. Do you need my help to bring them into the house?" After signing his name casually, Bai Ye shook his head and said, "No, just put it here. I can carry it in myself." "Oh." The courier boy nodded, and with difficulty he took down the large items from the car and placed them in front of Bai Ye. Then he watched in surprise as the handsome young man in front of him, who looked a little thin, easily lifted several hundred kilograms of items. The courier grabbed it with one hand and walked quickly towards the house. Walking into the house, Bai Ye couldn't wait to open the express delivery. Inside was a custom-made glass bathtub with a length of 160 centimeters and a width of 70 centimeters, and a 50 centimeters long glass rod. As for the express delivery that was initially placed at the door of the house, it contained 10 liters of ultrapure sulfuric acid with a concentration of 98% stored in a glass container. Because it was too troublesome to purchase through formal channels, he purchased it from the dark web. At this moment, these glass products sparkle outward under the light, looking extremely exquisite. Bai Ye moved the custom-made glass bathtub into the bathroom of the house with great anticipation, then put on protective clothing, took out a few buckets of pure water purchased from the Walmart next door, and poured it directly into the glass bathtub. Then unscrew the glass lid of the concentrated sulfuric acid and slowly pour the concentrated sulfuric acid directly into the inner wall of the glass bathtub. During the dilution process, he watched the concentrated sulfuric acid and pure water mix together, and he continued to gently stir the water with a glass rod to continuously release heat, watching the colorless and odorless sulfuric acid pouring into the glass bathtub. When he felt it was almost done, he looked at the slightly hot dilute sulfuric acid bath inside. Bai Ye took off his gloves and gently dipped in. Feeling the slightly warm water temperature, Bai Ye removed all the clothes on his body except the hood, and then slowly lay down in it expressionlessly, with only his head exposed, savoring the slight corrosion of the ultradiluted sulfuric acid on the body. As long as the mind is not slipping, there are always more solutions than difficulties. Since the so-called exercise is a process of muscle destruction and repair, it is better to do it in one step and add some strength to the skin. At this moment, his constitution has reached 1.3, and the skin's epidermis maintains elasticity while also being quite tough. After experiments, it was found that an ordinary knife requires some force to cut the skin, and the wound will quickly stop bleeding within 30 seconds, and the scab will recover within a day. This kind of performance has begun to move towards dehumanization, which is why he had the confidence to take a bath in sulfuric acid. "I'll just sleep here tonight. Bai Ye thought in his mind, and then he calmed down, ignoring the slight stinging sensation caused by the sulfuric acid, and began to practice the Zixia magic art, and soon entered the state of forgetting both things and myself. During this process, the sulfuric acid inside the glass bathtub was constantly eroding Bai Ye's skin, although the corrosiveness of sulfuric acid was so weak that it was almost non-existent due to dilution. When the time was extended to several hours, Bai Ye's skin gradually began to be unable to support it. However, as the skin's epidermis was corroded, Bai Ye's healing ability also began to take effect, thus maintaining a delicate balance between destruction and healing. At 7 o'clock in the morning of the next day, Bai Ye, whose face was filled with purple air, exhaled a long stream of turbid air, and slowly collected the internal energy flowing throughout his body into his dantian. Feeling the 8 strands of qi dormant quietly in his dantian, Bai Ye slowly opened his eyes and sighed in his heart. The improvement in qualifications brought by the 1.3 physique has doubled my cultivation efficiency. The energy accumulated in one night is actually equivalent to the sum of the previous 2 nights. If I had a 1.4 or 1.5 physique, I would not hiss. Bai Ye took a deep breath as he was thinking about it. Just as he was about to get up, he found that the skin below his neck stung like needles. Looking down, the skin soaked in the bathtub was as red as dripping blood, like a cooked prawn. He crawled out of the bathtub almost trembling, and the tingling sensation on his skin, especially his lower body, made him gasp. This feeling is as exciting as peeling skin, and the body is soaked in sulfuric acid. As Bai Ye stepped out of the bathtub, a new description appeared on the status bar: you completed a diluted sulfuric acid bath with a total duration of 9 hours, 17 minutes, and 26 seconds. Repeat 5 times to increase the upper limit of physical fitness by 0.1. Looking at the prompts displayed on the instruction column, Bai Ye's eyes lit up. His attempt was indeed correct. The destruction and regeneration of the body can indeed improve physical fitness. Next time he has a chance, he will lie in the sulfuric acid pool and use electric shock therapy to repair both internal and external problems. The effect must be even more outstanding. Bai Ye stood up, endured the stinging pain on his skin, wiped off the water droplets on his body bit by bit with a bath towel, and then put on his clothes. He looked up at the time and saw that it was still early for school. Bai Ye simply swallowed the food to satisfy his hunger, and then did push-ups directly in the room. With his strength reaching 1.4 and his constitution reaching 1.3, Bai Ye's physical fitness has begun to gradually approach the limit of the human body. You don't even need internal energy to sustain it. You can do more than 3,000 push-ups at one time just by relying on your physical strength. Enduring the stinging sensation from the friction between his skin and clothes, Bai Ye spent an hour completing more than 5,800 push-ups in a standard posture before exhausting his internal strength and falling to the ground. During this process, sweat seeps out of the skin like adding salt to the wound. It's too slow. After your physical strength improves, it takes too long to exercise solely with your own weight. As expected, you still have to exercise with weights. Bai Ye looked at the wasted time and was a little dissatisfied. He looked up at the time and saw that there were still about 10 minutes left before class. Bai Ye picked up his school bag calmly, opened the door and rushed towards the school. The journey that was almost hell for him 3 days ago was no longer challenging for Bai Ye at this moment. He didn't even take a deep breath during the whole process. The only pain was the stinging pain caused by the friction of my clothes while running. On the road, his running body almost formed an afterimage. Passers-by were overtaken by him without even reacting, and could only stare at his back in a daze. You completed a run with a total distance of 2,024 meters and an average pace of 2 minutes and 20 seconds per kilometer. It was repeated 15,328 times. The body suffered long-term damage of 0.11% and could recover on its own when the physical fitness reached 1.5. Chapter 9. The health bar is bright. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. The running data has also broken the world record. Bai Ye looked at the prompt on the explanation column. It only took 4 minutes and 40 seconds to run 2,000 meters, which is 2 seconds faster than the current human record of 2,000 meters. Of course, Bai Ye knew that it was not that his strength or speed exceeded human limits, but that his average physical fitness was close to human limits, although at this moment, his endurance is not as good as that of a long-distance runner. his speed is not as good as that of a sprinter, and his strength is also far behind those strong men who often pull airplanes to walk, but the balance of comprehensive statistics allows him to easily defeat these professional players who surpass him in individual physical fitness. It can be understood that he is the strongest in sprinting, has the strongest endurance in weightlifting, and is the fastest in long-distance running. Hey, Bai Ye, why did you ask for leave on Friday? Just as he was thinking, a hand from behind wrapped around his shoulder, and the force acted on his sensitive skin, making him tremble in pain. Bai Ye endured the pain and grabbed the arm on his shoulder and pulled it off. Ivan, I don't like someone putting their hands on my shoulders like this, Bai Ye turned back and said to Ivan, but the other person kept looking at him blankly. Oh my God, Bai Ye, did you go for plastic surgery this weekend? Classmate Ivan looked at Bai Ye's face in surprise. He subconsciously wanted to reach out and pinch it, but he grabbed it. Bai Ye said with a disgusted look on her face, I told you, I'm not used to cuddling. You can't be gay. Of course not, but have you really not gone for plastic surgery? Which hospital has this technology and can achieve this kind of plastic surgery effect? I can accept it. Ivan wanted to continue asking, but Bai Ye, who already found him annoying, didn't bother to answer him and walked directly to his seat. Just as he sat down, Peter next to him looked at him in surprise and said, Bai Ye, why do you look so handsome? You can become famous even if you debut as a star. Why do you say that? Bai Ye said speechlessly. Later, he discovered that not only Peter, but also the classmates around him were paying attention to his face, and they were surprised that Bai Ye was handsome again. In the past, he might have considered becoming a star, but with the attribute panel, his goal is not to be the so-called center of attention, but to try to play the role of a god on earth. No one can stop me from doing what I want to do. If I feel unhappy, I can even tell the President of the United States that I don't eat beef. The whole world will revolve because of his ideas, and then he will be the biggest star in the world, and there will not be a single anti-fan in the world. Do you know how much I envy your looks? If I were as handsome as you, I would have debuted as a star, and Uncle Ben and the others wouldn't have to continue working. Peter's face was full of envy. After all, his family situation was not very good. His parents died young and he was raised by Uncle Ben and Aunt May. Then Peter remembered something and said, by the way, last Friday when you were away, the teacher announced that on Wednesday our class will go to Osborne Group for a visit. If we perform well by then, we can even directly qualify for an internship in this large company. I was on leave that day, so the teacher asked me to inform. Why do you look at me like this? Halfway through Peter's words, he found that Bai Ye's eyes on him became a little complicated. Nothing, just congratulations in advance. Bai Ye shook his head and said. At that time, the plot of Spider-Man should start, and then he will embark on the same path as Batman, where the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Congratulations. Do you think I can be selected to intern at Osborne? Peter smiled. So be it. Bai Ye didn't know what to say, hoping that he could save Uncle Ben in time before he was shot. As he spoke, he opened the properties panel out of habit, but unexpectedly discovered the changes in the description column. Description column, detect someone launching an attack on you and analyze the opponent's data. Name, Chris, strength, 1.1. Agility, 1.0. Constitution, 1.0. Spirit, 1.0. Charisma, 1.1. Well. So this is a bright blood bar. Bai Ye looked at the front row, recalling the pain that Ike had caused to his shoulder just now, and immediately made a guess in his mind. Peter, pat me. Bai Ye said seriously. What? Peter glanced at Bai Ye inexplicably, then raised his hand and patted Bai Ye's back gently. As the pain on the skin rises, a prompt appears again in the description column, detect someone attacking you and analyze opponent data. Name, Peter Parker, strength, 0.9. Agility, 1.0. Constitution, 0.8. Spirit, 1.6. Charm, 1.0. I'm really quite thin. My three-dimensional average didn't even break 1.0, but why don't I have the agility column? Bai Ye thought. After thinking for a while, he could only guess that his agility column and strength column were merged. After all, speed is power. Not long after, as the class bell rang, the teacher walked into the classroom as usual and began his teaching routine. However, Bai Ye, who was sitting in the back row, gradually became a little irritable while listening to the teacher's lecture. After 3 days of exercise, he felt that his physical fitness had grown rapidly, and he was no longer satisfied with the days of leisurely listening to the teacher's lectures in the classroom. After all, after his mental power reaches 1.4, he can master the teacher's teaching content for a semester by just flipping through books in one night. Now he no longer wants to waste time on meaningless learning in the classroom. At this time, he couldn't wait to go back to the gym and continue to improve himself. I really can't stay in this school any longer, let's practice the Zixia magic skill for a while. Bai Ye thought in his heart, then he closed his eyes slightly and buried his face in his arms, preparing to transfer his inner strength, but at this moment he completely underestimated his own attraction. Bai Ye's appearance was already one of the best among human beings. After his physical improvement and transformation, he became like a lantern that lights up at night, the most beautiful kid in the whole school. Under the nose of the whole class, it is really difficult to take advantage of. The class, sure enough, as soon as his head fell down and before he started to exercise, a concerned reminder came from the podium. Bai Ye, are you feeling unwell? On the podium, the young female teacher Emma asked with concern on her face. Bai Ye had to raise his head and replied, "Yes, teacher, I feel a little dizzy and want to go to the academic affairs office." "Are you dizzy? Why don't I accompany you to the infirmary?" As soon as Emma said these words, she immediately received the attention of all the men and women in the class. "Are you caring about him? I don't even want to expose you." "No need, teacher, I'll just go by myself." Bai Ye shook his head gently, and then quietly walked out of the classroom with Emma's disappointed eyes. Chapter 10 Gwen Stacy. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Zhongqing High School, on the rooftop of the teaching building, Bai Ye grabbed the guardrail and looked into the distance. At this moment, he is considering whether to drop out of school now. Anyway, his life experience is the same as that of other people in Zhutian orphanage. It doesn't matter if he doesn't study. Yes, Bai Ye has no parents in this world, or to him in this world, having biological parents is worse than not having them at all. After hesitating for a moment, he gave up the idea. After all, his plan before recovering his memory was to study hard, stay away from the underworld life, and live a rich life. At this moment, Bai Ye was having a headache, thinking about how to make money in the short term. The living expenses that I had worked hard to earn before have been used up in a series of consumption. As for studying, even if you don't drop out of school, you can always ask for leave and skip classes. Anyway, it's only a day that can be postponed. It's so annoying. If you really can't do it, just go be a pretty girl for a rich woman. You can't just rob a bank like in the past. Bai Ye complained. It can only be said that he awakened his memory too late. Otherwise, relying on the memory of his previous life and making a time difference, not to mention the freedom of becoming a billionaire, he would not be troubled by a mere tens of thousands of dollars. Standing on the rooftop of the building, his eyes began to look into the distance, feeling the gentle breeze on the rooftop. Bai Ye gently took a deep breath of the cold air and looked at the rows of high-rise buildings in New York in the distance. As he looked at the ground below from a height, a new exercise method suddenly emerged in his mind. That is, if the body is placed between life and death, will the mental training be more efficient? The moment the idea arose, Bai Ye took off his coat and firmly grasped the edge of the railing in front of him with both hands. The next moment his perspective was reversed, and he stood upside down on the smooth iron railing. Although his arms were very stable to keep his body in mid-air, he was currently in a high-rise building of more than 10 meters. If he made a slight mistake, he might lose his footing, and he would be half disabled even if he didn't die. In this state, Bai Ye's breathing quickened slightly, and his adrenaline began to increase, bringing unprecedented concentration to his senses. This is exactly the side method in traditional martial arts, stealing secrets from heaven. Scientifically speaking, by putting the body in dangerous situations at any time, using the power of the environment to concentrate energy, speed up blood flow, and create an extreme mode similar to the night before a college exam, your learning efficiency soars. Under the pressure of failing a class, you can speed through an exam in a few hours. After stabilizing his body, Bai Ye concentrated his whole body's gravity on his right hand, then lifted the weight behind his back and began to do one-handed handstand push-ups. The control brought by the mental attribute of 1.4 makes his every movement as stable as a machine, under the pressure of death. Every rise and fall of his body made his nerves tense, followed by thoughts of retreat that kept pouring out of his mind, but these were suppressed by Bai Ye's brain. In his eyes were fixed on the plus sign in the physical column of the attribute panel. If there was a mistake in his body balance, he would immediately transfer all the attribute points to be used to the physical column. At that time, the physical constitution will be directly improved to 1.9, and with the protection of internal strength, not only will he be unscathed, at least he will be able to survive after losing his footing. Although Bai Ye would not put himself in death without any trouble, under such multiple insurances, he still flinched, which would be too cowardly. 132, 133, 134, with this kind of concentration, even if there is no weight, every one-hand handstand push-up will waste more energy to maintain the stability of the body. Soon after reaching 160, Bai Ye's physical strength began to lose, and his arms began to tremble slightly uncontrollably. He had no choice but to drain his internal energy from his dantian to maintain the imbalance in physical strength. Crunch. Just when Bai Ye was concentrating on doing handstand push-ups, the iron door opened with a creak. A blonde girl opened the door and walked up, and saw a handsome young man with fair cheeks and red skin below his neck, sitting on the edge of the railing as if nothing had happened, looking at her. "Classmate, it should be class time now, don't you think you are in the wrong place?" Bai Ye turned over and sat on the railing before the girl opened the door, looking at the visitor nonchalantly. With blonde shawl and wavy hair, exquisite facial features and a good figure, Bai Ye can give the opponent a high score of 1.3 in terms of charm. "I should ask you this, Bai Ye, did you also come up to rest during the extracurricular training?" The girl raised her eyebrows slightly, looked at Bai Ye up and down, and said with a smile, "Do you know me?" Bai Ye asked doubtfully. "Of course I know you. At last year's welcome party, the entire school's students should have an impression of you. I just have a good memory and can only remember your name a little bit." The blonde girl walked forward slowly, admiring Bai Ye's appearance, and stretched out her right hand and said, "Let me meet you, my name is Gwen Stacy." Bai Ye didn't expect that the person in front of him turned out to be Gwen Stacy. Out of politeness, he stretched out his hand to shake her hand gently. But after the contact, his palm was grabbed by the opponent, and with a gentle pull, Bai Ye was pulled off from under the railing. "Don't you think it's dangerous to sit by the railing?" Gwen smiled softly. Bai Ye glanced at this woman speechlessly, suspecting that this overly mature woman wanted to have fun with him. At the same time, at the moment of contact, due to the slight tingling on the skin of his arm, Bai Ye also saw the other party's data. Name, Gwen Stacy, Strength, 1.0. Agility, 1.0. Constitution, 0.9. Spirit, 1.1. Charisma, 1.3. After confirming that the other party was not some kind of Spider-Woman version of Gwen, but just an ordinary person with no threat, Bai Ye felt that there was no need to pay too much attention. He put his coat on the railing back on, put his hands in his pockets, and walked out the door, saying, "If you want to rest, I'll leave it to you here. Goodbye." Seeing Bai Ye was about to leave, Gwen wanted to say something, but Bai Ye's figure disappeared from the rooftop in a flash, and she could only sigh helplessly. Here, coming down from the rooftop, Bai Ye looked at the changes in the attribute bar. Although the exercise had stopped halfway due to the appearance of Gwen, in terms of effect, the method of stealing the secret was still quite effective. In the attribute column, the training effect of strength and physique is only slightly enhanced, but the number of exercises for the mental attribute is directly reduced by about 50%. "Keep up the good work, my deskmate will become Spider-Man in a few days. Once he transforms and sees how his three-dimensional attributes are, we can roughly deduce the increase of each attribute." Bai Ye thought in his heart. Then I found an empty room nearby and started practicing the Zixia magic skill slowly. When I came to my senses, I was already at school until 10 o'clock in the evening. "This book has been signed, so feel free to invest, I can bear it if the recommended tickets and monthly tickets are rewarded."